we're going to do this again. We had a little practice session here. So this is the March 4th, 2025 meeting of the Director Search Committee of the Coffee County Board of Education. So we are missing Mr. Hansert, Mr. Gilly today. So it is just Ms. Jones and myself. And our agenda today is we're going to look at the director's salary range, the term of the contract, and we put together a draft contract. So that is the agenda for today. So the first one, we have gotten the 24-25 salary range from of directors in the state of Tennessee from TSBA, and they do range kind of all over the board. So we were looking, I think some of the suggestions I've heard, and I don't know what you wanted, Frida, but what you were looking at, but is somewhere in, we talked about a bonus, which would be separate from the salary in the contract, but, you know, that basically kind of what I've heard from is in the range of 165 to 185 seems to be kind of for schools our size. So any thoughts on that?
Well, Mr. Hansard did call me before I came, and he told me that he could not attend the committee meeting, and that he looked at it being 160 or more,
Okay, yeah. So,
at least 160 to be competitive
Right.
with surrounding counties. And what is Tullahoma's director make?
on here it is 192.
And you know,
192, 938.
okay, and that's quite a bit of difference. And Coffee County, does the Tullahoma director have a deputy director?
I don't know.
I mean, that would be something to look at, because if they're making does anybody know that, if they have a deputy director? You know, right. Of different, assistant superintendent of different areas. Mm-hmm. Right. But it's my thinking, you know, Coffee County, we're the biggest school system, and the director has a lot more responsibility, or more responsibility of schools. I'm not saying more responsibility, but has more schools to oversee. And Tullahoma would be the closest. What does Manchester City?
133.
Yeah, but they just got through approving a higher salary.
Right, according to this, it's 133, but
That's
I know
not correct.
they bumped it up.
They
Yeah,
bumped it up to 145.
145. So,
I thought it was 160, but it's 145,000 for Manchester City.
yeah,
Okay.
with no high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable at all to realize that we're going to have to change it somewhat. Okay, so she has a deputy director, makes 192,000, and then other central office personnel. So, okay, yeah, I'd like to see it.
So you're thinking probably want to be closer to Tullahoma range? So,
Well, I'm just, you know, I'm of the opinion that salaries make a difference in who you attract, and that's even, like we know, teachers.
exactly.
And everything's becoming so competitive in public education right now that we're going to have to be on top of the game to get people in.
I agree.
And, you know, there's other ways of cutting costs and to compensate for that.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, from other board members, I've heard, you know, kind of in the 180, 185 range.
At
And
least.
yeah, so now if we do $10,000 in performance bonuses, so that would bump it. So if
Right.
you went 185, and then another 10 possible, that would put you at 195, so that's,
Maybe a one, I mean, I know that we can't compete with systems that have more, more funds than we, more funds to deal with.
Right.
Because I know that, and we all know that once we do our budget, we're stuck with that. But Tullahoma City and Manchester City, they can compile their budget, and then whatever we do, they get an extra bonus on top of that. We don't get that.
right.
So we're at a disadvantage in being able to pay these high salaries, but still, we still got to look at it.
Right, and the population of Tullahoma schools is pretty close to, or less than what we have in the county.
Right.
Pretty close? Less? Okay. So we got more students.
Let's see. Okay, I don't see the students. I see the salaries, 192, 938.
This is for Tullahoma City.
Okay,
Okay, yes. They got 3,491 students. The director makes 192, 938, and has a deputy director.
and an assistant to the deputy director, so, yeah.
So we're looking at
Well, and then-
similar situation as what we have. We have a director and a deputy director.
Right,
And we have 4,199 students. As of right now, we're approximately 50,000, we're paying 50,000 less
right.
for a director.
So if we went with something closer to in the 180 to 185 range, and then you look at potential bonus of $10,000 if they hit perform, that would put them at 195, or 190 to 195, which would be competitive.
And, I don't want to get out of reason and,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you don't either.
No,
Bedford
And April
County
doesn't
is,
want us to
we
either.
could look at Bedford. Bedford is 150,800.
right. And
Uh,
Warren County is 142.
Franklin County is
140.
150.
Yeah, you go to something like Grundy is 125, Bedford is 150, 800. So that's kind of the surrounding county, and Rutherford, which probably is not a good comparison for us anyway, is 241, but,
Okay, another thing to look at is that, and this is something too, you look at Franklin County, they only have one school system. Isn't that correct? There's no city. That director makes 150,000. Coffee County has 3 school systems, and we pay out approximately $484,000 for directors for Coffee County as compared to Franklin, 150,000. I mean, I think the people of Coffee County need to look at this and think about it. I mean, it's just facts. And we look at Bedford County. Bedford County is one school system. They pay $150,800 for one director. Coffee County is similar to Bedford as far as the county. We're paying out $484,000. And I'm looking at that not as a board member of Coffee County Schools. I'm looking at that as a taxpayer. I mean, it's just, and here we're trying to up our salary of our
right,
director to make it comparable. And it's just going to make it even more so for the taxpayers to put out.
right, and we split that same pot, from the
Right.
county side as well, so,
And we really don't know if that 192 for Tullahoma is going to even be more, next year, because these are last year's.
right,
So anyway, that's just something to think about, because it's not, it's not something we can do lightly to just add on to a salary, even though I'm in agreement that it needs to be comparable.
yeah, and the other thing, consideration is you want to attract somebody who's good, and, and so you're kind of looking at, as Dr. Grissom told us from TSBA, that we got 11 school systems in Tennessee that are looking for a director, and so you're competing with all of those too, and, we don't know,
Right.
what we're competing with there. So we want to have enough of an attractive salary to bring that in as well. So that's, it's a balancing act, that's for sure, so.
If we're going to do a performance contract, maybe we could start at a lower scale, say, instead of 180 or 185, start at 175, and then possibly that director could be making 185 if met the performance goals. But, I'm just throwing things out, and I think that you and I were just talking, and we need to make sure that the other people
Right,
on the committee and the rest of the board agree with that.
right. That's, so we'll definitely, yeah, we're making,
We're just, I don't think you and I are going to be making any decisions today.
we don't have a quorum here,
Right.
and, yeah, and we got to do that in the board meeting as well. But, I guess my recommendation would be somewhere in the 180 to 185 range plus the bonus of up to 10,000 based on, I think the way we talked about it in the contract, we'll get to the contract, but 4 $2,500 bonuses potential. So that would put you, if you went 180, for instance, that would put you in the 190 range potentially. If you hit those performance bonuses. So, I understand for the need for fiscal responsibility, but we also want to make sure we have right now, last I checked, 10 candidates, and I think 3 or 4 of those are from out of state. So, and some of them are, I think we got one from Arizona and one from Texas, and so, we'll have to look at that too, and, but it's the reality of what we got in Coffee County here, so.
I was just looking at the salary range. If we increased it to that, we would really be competitive with most of the school districts in the state of Tennessee, with the exception of special school districts like Franklin and
Right.
and those areas.
Yeah, some of those are,
Clarksville.
Franklin Special, 270, but that's gonna, those are exceptions. What's that? Yes, the travel is extra.
This would just be the base salary.
Now, that's part of the contract, we'll get to the contract and whether we want to just pay mileage or we want to do the travel allowance that we had in our last contract. So that's, a little up in the air too. I mean, that should basically just be a reimbursement, for expenditures and whether you want to do it as a lump sum or have actual expenses, so.
I do see Warren County's, even this year, has a $10,000 performance bonus.
Right. Yeah, I'm not seeing. Warren County does, I'm not seeing
That's
a
about the
lot
only
of,
one I see.
yeah, that's the only one I see too. So,
Of course, Warren County, they have 6,174 students, and it's just one school system. And their salary was approximately 143,000 plus a $10,000 performance bonus. So,
so more students, less money.
looking on here, it's sure not commensurate with the number of students, is it?
No. I mean, kind of for our area, I guess Tullahoma is kind of on the high end. And that's kind of who we'd, I don't want to say competing with, but kind of what you want to compare to.
Does Hamilton County, is it only one school system? Okay, so we're looking at Hamilton County, which is Chattanooga. They pay their director $255,000. We're Coffee County, we pay $484,000. It's just facts, you know.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. We can't change that today.
Yeah, yeah. I
That's
mean,
just something that we need to look at.
how did
as
we
a
end up
county,
with
I
3
think.
school systems in Coffee County? So I'm thinking based on, you know, some of the feedback I've gotten at various times is, you know, what I've heard from various board members is 165 to 185 plus the 10,000 performance bonus broken into 2,500, you know, for four separate bonuses each year based on individual, just making sure I'm doing the mic right. Four performance goals, each with $2,500 attached to it each year. I think that's what we'd
Okay.
basically put in the contract. So
So that 10,000 is over a period of time.
it's over each year. So, yeah. But you got to hit all 4 of those.
Right.
Well, you could hit one to 4, you know, or 0 to 4, I guess, and get no bonus, you know, and we would hope that they would hit all 4. So potentially you'd be paying $10,000. So
Each year, if they met all
yes,
4.
yes. So that would be an annual thing. So that would put you above, if they hit all their goals, that would put you above Tullahoma. So, you know, if we went with something in the 175 to 180 range, then that would put you, you know, potentially in the 190 range with the bonuses.
How do our teachers, you know, our salaries, we've gotten them up so they're comparable, aren't they, to both systems?
Well, I think that with the base salary hitting 50,000 for everybody, we're probably going to be
Right.
pretty close. Is that? And most teachers are probably going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, right. And, you know, I don't want us to, you know, load up the top end and leave out the people that's actually keeping our system going and where the rubber meets the road, you might say. So, you know, and I don't want anybody to think that that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
As, you know, we want to keep our teachers' salaries going upward as well.
But we also want to have a good director too and make
Right.
sure
Well,
we're
then
attract them.
that's
Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to throw money away either, but so I mean, what are you thinking? Probably in the 175 to 185 range, perhaps.
That's what I think, 'cause
Yeah.
and then with the with the 10,000 bonus, that's gonna make the director even have even more incentive
Right,
to perform.
right. So, I mean, that's kind of the range is kind of what I was thinking about too. So, you know, depending on their experience and, you know, and how we negotiate things. But, so basically then we would recommend to the board for next week's board meeting, somewhere 175 to 185. Is that right?
That's okay with me.
Yeah. I'm fine with
And
that.
if they're, you know, if the board, if the consensus of the board is less, you know, I'll go along with that too.
Right, yeah.
Uh, But that's good with me.
Okay. I'm fine with that too. So we will put that on the agenda and make a motion and vote on that. So, where we want to be on that. All right.
With
Yeah.
the 10,000
With,
bonus.
with the 10,000 bonus, yeah, we'll,
And then travel, with the same, probably the same circumstances as we have now, as far as that way we're paying
we
travel.
did
We're gonna look at that.
600 a month. Was it 600 a month? Yeah,
That's probably easier, isn't it? Just to have a flat fee. Right.
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 yeah. And I think that, you know, I've seen kind of a mix. It's probably more paying it out as a flat rate, but some people do just as a mileage reimbursement, but that is a pain, because that's probably how you keep track of your miles and all that stuff too for tax purposes. So, it's a pain,
Right, it is.
so. And that's probably not unreasonable when you consider the travel the director does, so.
Well, yeah, if they're doing their job and, they're not gonna be just sitting up here
Right,
every day.
yeah,
They'll be
yeah, they should be out
traveling
at
and-
schools and all that.
Going, you know, going to a lot of meetings and conferences and that sort of thing.
Right, so, and that's kind of what we put in the draft contract from our discussion last time too, so I guess kind of next item on the agenda though is term of contract. The maximum term, I believe, is 4 years for a director. We had talked about 2 years. Dr. Powell related to me that he would recommend 3 years, so I don't know what you think, you know, to make sure that somebody is willing, we may get people that are not willing to come on board if we only did 2 years.
Yeah, if we put the stipulation, particularly if it's someone that doesn't live here, then, you know, for 2 years, I don't think they would want
Right,
to take the chance of
yeah.
moving and moving their family, and then 2 years they're gone.
Right,
3 years is, I think 4 is too much.
Yeah.
for
yeah, I would agree, so.
Start out with 3.
Yeah, and most of the other board members that I've heard from, you know, 3 years seem to be fine with them, so I think that's a good number, so. We would put that in the contract then, so, and so,
And if any, you know, that would be part of our board discussion.
Right.
If someone on the board just
Right.
thought that it shouldn't be 3.
right,
Yeah.
right, yes. You know, and, yeah, I think if we're gonna, if we're requiring in our contract, which right now, the way the draft contract is written, that they reside in Coffee County, then, you know, yeah, would you say, 2-year contract, it's not worth it to sell my house and move there, and,
Right.
you know, 3 years is more of a stable period, so I would agree with that myself, so, all right. So 3 years, Melissa, is what we'd recommend. Now, we get into the contract. And this was, we discussed this last time, and we went through and we marked things up, and we took a couple contracts and merged them and then pulled some stuff out of TSBA model contract and some from our old contract. So that's kind of pulling all this together based on our notes. So it probably is good to kind of go through here and see if I didn't do what, because I had some pretty extensive notes. So now, since we did that, Dr. Powell and I scanned this in, and some of it didn't come out real well, but he gave us a copy of the Lincoln County contract. And I looked through here, I really didn't see, a lot of these contracts, they all start to look pretty much the same after a while. All have pretty much the same type of thing. So I don't know if you had a chance to look at that, but. This one had performance goals, but it didn't have a bonus that I can see, so. But I didn't see anything in here that I thought would really change what we had agreed on last time. So if you want, we can go through this paragraph by paragraph and,
Maybe that's best to do that.
yeah. So we can just kind of go through and see if there's anything we want to change on here before we send it to the board, full board. So, first one is, just the intro and all the introductions. So getting down to section 1 is the term of contract. So we agreed that it would be 3 years. So that we would just have to fill that in for 3 years. And we're anticipating right now that we do get a new director starting June 1st. So that would be June 1st to May 30th, I guess. May have 30 days, 31. You would recommend, so you'd recommend starting in,
That's fiscal, because the fiscal year starts July 1st. And,
so you'd say start the contract in July or yeah,
I'm not certain, I just would say that it's better for us if we have someone in place like for June, because we have things that we have to close out for the year.
right. So,
Someone here June to help us do that, so.
okay, so what you're saying is start the contract in July 1?
I think
Yeah.
that follows the school year.
Right, yeah, yeah,
that would make it cleaner that way.
that would make it
But
cleaner.
if we should hire someone prior to that, we could probably pay them to come in June, not as director, but as a transition,
Right,
because they, if we hire someone, they need to hit, wait until July, school starts, like in
right, right,
2 or 3 weeks after that. So they would need to be a part of the planning, and getting familiar with everything that's going on as soon as, when is the deadline for hiring?
We had
I
May
didn't
1st, I
bring
believe,
that,
is
May 1st. So if we,
make a decision and make an offer May 1st.
I didn't bring the timeline with
Yeah.
me. I didn't bring that timeline with me, but offer it. Name it. So if we name someone on May 12th, then we don't want them, I don't personally, as a board member, think that they should just sit idle from May 12th till July 1st.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we would have to do some other type of payment for them. Maybe they wouldn't assume their duties maybe until, well, not necessarily that it'd be their contracts they were assuming. I guess that's the reason why the June 1st was there, because of that.
Right. To have somebody come on board. Now, is there, I know it makes it a little cleaner for you, but is there, if we made it basically, essentially it would be 3 years and a month is,
In June, we close out grants,
right,
there are all kinds of things that you can move in, and we have all kinds of.
yeah,
All kinds of payments that
Right.
we need someone to sign for. The deputy director could do that, but we preferred the director to sign.
right. So if we did June 1st, 2025 to July 1st, 2028, something like that?
When does Dr. Lawson's contract, when do we stop, when is his payment stop?
So June 30 is his last payment.
Okay.
It's his
So
last
really, we're
contract
picking,
day.
so really, July 1st would be, you know,
He'll get a paycheck in July, but it's for June.
yeah,
time.
right, so that's the end of June, okay.
Mhm.
So really, honestly, July 1st is the, but, you know, when people hire people in the middle of the year, though, you know, it's not necessarily July 1st. you
Right,
know. So
right.
we could just add that month on to this and just end it, July, couldn't we?
Well, June,
May, let's see,
well, if
May
we started June
31st,
1st, 2028,
2028.
and ended it June, or May, or June 30th of 2028.
Right,
Mhm, we
right,
can do
we
that.
could do that.
So that would essentially
That would
be
be
3
better.
years and a month. So
Right.
we, you know, yeah, so it's not quite 3 years, but,
Right.
or it's not exactly 3 years, but,
Well, if we put on here a 3-year term of the contract, we're gonna make these, gonna have to have these dates to
yeah,
line up with that 3-year.
right. And I don't think it specifies in here that it's a 3-year contract. It's just
It
You
says
know,
term of contract.
term of
Yeah,
contract.
so we
yes.
don't necessarily put 3 years, we just
Right.
put the dates.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So would something like that work? You know, I
That would
mean,
It'd be great to have someone here till June 30 for,
Right.
for fiscal. That's-
June 1st, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so now the question is, you know, budget-wise, you know, how we deal with that. So that would be another budget amendment, so,
Well, I'm already preparing that, so I'm planning on go ahead and I'm anticipating that happening.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna add an extra month.
Okay.
in Just to have some cushion in that line
all right,
for that specific reason.
all right. So that would work,
Okay.
all right.
That'll
So-
work then.
Yeah, just the fewer budget amendments, the better.
I know we are gonna have a lot in this next meeting.
I know.
Believe
So-
me, I don't like them either.
Oh, they take so long. It's like
Get 'em
3
through,
months to
yeah.
get them through, yeah, so.
Month and a half to get 'em through the
Yeah, a
county.
month and a half, yeah, so that's gonna, yeah, so, all right, so, number 2 is professional certification. The director shall furnish to the board evidence of director's attainment of the qualifications set out by the board adopted policies, as amended from time to time in regards to the office of director. So that's just referring to our policy of the qualifications for director, which we reaffirmed in our last board meeting, I think. Now, duties, we pulled this from another contract, but, I think I make sure I changed out all the other school system to Coffee County, but, so this is basically just, director shall have charge of the administration of the school system under direction of the board. The director shall perform the duties as specified by state law, including TCA 49-2-301, as well as those listed in the job description for directors adopted by the board and is amended from time to time by mutual agreement between the board and director during the term of this contract. So that's referencing our policy. Such job description and amendments thereto are hereby incorporated in this contract by reference. The director shall direct and assign teachers and other employees of the school system under her, we change that to,
His or her.
yeah. Sexist language. And arrange for the administration, for the administrative and supervisory staff, including instruction and business affairs, as best serves the school system and district. The director shall select all personnel and pursuant to board policy, recommend exemplary teachers for tenure consideration. The director shall from time to time suggest regulation, rules, and procedures deemed necessary for the well ordering of the school system and district, and in general perform all duties incident to the office of director. So that's fairly complete description. Any suggestions on that? Now, section B, and this had a section B to this paragraph 3. is strategic planning. So not later than, the director shall develop a proposed strategic plan for the upcoming school year for the board's review and consideration by such and such a date. The board shall review the director's proposal and shall develop and adopt a strategic plan for Coffee County Schools containing specific goals and objectives that the director will pursue with all diligence. Now, this is referencing the 5-year plan. So, and that's
And this
strategic.
strategic plan would also include, I think, the performance goals
Right.
of the
Okay,
director. I mean, he's not gonna develop that, that would be a part of it.
right. Okay, so this,
And the strategic plan needs to be something that is readable and, that is specific to our school system, not just something that is put together, with, you know, with things that aren't relevant to us, in other words.
right.
Of course, you can't put that in a contract, but to me, that would be the definition of that strategic plan that's specific to Coffee County Schools.
So, post-strategic plan specific to Coffee County Schools?
I think that that needs to be put in there because
Okay.
it's not something that we're just gonna get off the internet and say, here's our plan.
Okay,
It's gotta be something that's doable and that you can check off when it's done.
okay. For the upcoming school year, for the board's review and consideration, the board shall review the director's proposal and shall develop and adopt a strategic plan for Coffee County Schools containing specific goals and objectives that the director will pursue with all diligence.
Okay, I would put in there, the director's proposal and shall develop and adopt a strategic plan for the Coffee County Schools containing specific goals and objectives. Just take out specific, containing goals and objectives specific to Coffee County Schools.
Okay. Those are- Okay. Easy. Okay. So what dates do we want to have in here? This is the first one, so it would be,
Well, you know, you couldn't
obviously, we need to
expect
give
them-
them some time.
Yeah,
to-
you couldn't expect a new director to provide leadership for this plan if he or she is not familiar with
Right.
our school system and
Right.
what our needs are and what our,
I believe we look at that in April, yeah.
it's, let's see, was it in the, there wasn't anything in the original, in the contract we have now, is there, about a plan? I know the state requires it, but what they require is something that all the programs combine and send it in. It's not
Right.
something
Kind of
that's just, it goes over, it covers test scores and that sort of thing, but not building programs and parental involvement and other things that's necessary in a true plan for improvement.
You may want to think about connecting the bonus with the date for that plan.
Right,
That's what I think
right,
on the-
right,
it's due like December in the contract.
right, right. And that's, yeah, they
Yes.
would be eligible to, yeah.
Yes,
Right. Well, and right here, it's got the January 1st, but, you know, it says no later than January 1st of each calendar year,
right.
career,
Our current contract makes no reference.
to anything.
Yeah, it references that annual performance agreement, but, you know, that never existed, so,
Said, okay, this one says not later than January 1st of each calendar year of this contract, the director will propose revisions to the board's strategic plan. And, I mean, the
Which-
board is
which one are
not,
you looking at?
I'm looking at this. The board,
Yeah.
we can't sit up here and develop a plan. It's gotta be under the direction of the director and other, and the people that's actually doing the work of the school system. And we, you know, we can be consultants and provide, provide our requests and that sort of thing, but it's a plan that's gotta be developed by the school system.
So if we give the first performance bonus in September, then December, March, and then June, they get their last one. That would be, if they hit all four of them. Is that right?
I think we had not, you know, it wasn't gonna be quarterly, it was just gonna be if they hit these over the course of the year,
Gotcha.
Right, it's not
Yeah.
like a deadline,
yeah.
because it might take an entire year to meet a goal, a
Right.
performance goal. And to me, this is what my thoughts, is once they meet that performance goal, and there's evidence of it, and everybody sees it, and the board agrees, and that's when that person, that director would get the amount,
Right.
whatever, you know, if it's one goal, $2,500. And that would be part of this, it would be incorporated to me
Right.
into that, strategic plan, you know, because if it's not part of it, how are you gonna
Well,
accomplish it?
So, yeah, if we go
Yeah.
down to compensation B, performance bonuses, as part of the strategic plan, developed pursuant to section, well, that needs to change, so. Yeah, no, that's right, so. Yes. So that is tied to the strategic plan, if you look down there, so.
And I would take out that boards, you know, it's not the board, it's where it says not later than January 1st of each calendar year of this contract, the director will propose provisions to the strategic plan. Just
Okay, yeah,
based upon the performance of the Coffee County schools in state assessments, and the board's evaluation of the director's own performance. No, not later than February 1st of each calendar year, this contract, the board will consider any revisions to the strategic plan. So what that's saying, I guess, is that if there's any, okay, there's gonna be a plan developed, and then, to me, that would be the date, that would be the date that we would need the plan in place, because
Right.
that's gonna give them, you know, 3 or 4 months to come up with the plan, and you wouldn't be revising at that point. Not later than January 1st of each calendar year, the director will, well, I'm just trying to think, after the first year, you'd want a strategic plan in place by the beginning of the next year. So the first
Right.
year with the new director, we wouldn't ask he or she to come up with a plan prior to January 1st. But once you get that plan in place, and then you can see what you've accomplished, what you haven't, then that plan's in place, all you do is revise it for the next year, or add to it.
right. And reflect, yeah, changes in the
So you would
system.
have one, you would have a strategic plan in place for the next school year,
So
once
now,
you develop it.
that's the 5-year plan that we currently have, correct?
No, this is a new plan. It's
It's
gonna
gonna
be,
be
no, this,
totally
no, that plan we have now is out the not out the window. That is for reporting purposes and for what you have to do with the state.
It's a brand new plan,
Gotcha.
This is something that's gonna be specific to the needs of each school and the system as a whole. And it will have sections in it. One section will be for assessments and school, you know, assessments and school grades and that sort of thing. Another would be like facilities. Another would be community involvement. You know, we would have to, I mean, that's something else we'd have to work on, because you can't just throw that out to a new director and say, develop this. They're gonna have to know exactly what we're looking for in a plan for his performance goals and for a plan for our school system. Anybody can pull something off and write up a plan, and it looks really good on paper. But we need something that is, that,
Specific to our
that
schools.
that's, makes sense, you
Yeah.
know, and it's not glorified words. You know, it's actually something that we can accomplish and something that we need. So that, to me, that's gonna be another, just a whole meeting of what we're gonna expect out of that strategic plan. Because that's the meat of this.
Right.
Because that's gonna be whether or not this director's gonna be effective or not,
Right.
is whether or not he or she's meeting these goals and got a plan.
You have this
For
as a
what?
plan. For reference, none of the other example contracts I have here have strategic plan even listed. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's important myself, so.
Well, it's a requirement for sure,
Right.
and I think a lot of times it's overlooked. People just turn it
Yeah.
in as a formality,
Right.
and then you never really get down into the nitty gritty of what needs to happen
Right.
in our school system.
Well, the 5-year plan is what's required. Are we required to do a strategic plan also? No?
I don't know, I guess that's up to the school board. I mean, I
Yeah.
know the state requires a 5-year plan,
Yeah.
and I know that's in place, but how many teachers sees that? This needs to be something that is simple, that every person in the school system sees it. These are our goals.
Right.
These are what everybody's working toward, and not something that's just, I mean, I know we're all working toward improving our test scores. Everybody knows that. That's a given. But there's other things that are important besides that need to be addressed.
See, I think, what would happen eventually is this strategic plan would eventually replace the 5-year plan, which is just,
Yeah,
nobody ever
right.
looks at that thing,
Right.
It's, the way it's put together, it's not hard to follow, it's just kind of, a lot of words on paper that, so a strategic plan should have actionable goals, and somewhere, not quite the district or the school improvement plans, but an overarching strategy for, is that kind of what you're thinking on that?
Well, my thinking, I know that the state requires, you have to come up with certain plans, no matter whatever this says, you're gonna have to do that. This doesn't need to be something that's a burden on anybody, but it needs to be something that you could possibly, if you wanted to, attach it to it, because we can't take away what y'all are required to do. And combine, I know y'all, Krista and all of you have to combine all that and turn that into the state, and that's what's required of you. But the ordinary person that looks at that, they think, what is Coffee County Schools going to accomplish in the next 5
Right.
years?
I can't hear you, so.
I said, right now, there's possibly, I know there's some legislation out there, possibly a study council costs that they're working on where you mentioned a 5-year plan, any plans together, and school improvements, and the piece of accountability is to kind of lump those together so that you're not having to manage so many.
Yeah, you're not,
Right.
you're doing it, and yeah,
Each LEA could have that focused
right,
as one plan.
right.
Inform Tennessee, we're thinking about trying to merge all of those together.
It makes sense.
Yeah,
Makes
instead of
sense.
having a lot of, yeah,
That does not exist right now.
Right,
And all of those plans will be more effective if they are linked together
right,
at some level
right.
to where you can see point A goes to point B.
Right. right.
Well, the other night in the work session, we had some, nice presentations from the middle school, from the virtual academy, and from Hickerson. Here's our plan to improve our test scores and get our letter grade up here. So, are we talking about something that takes those types of goals and puts that into a strategic plan? Here's what we're working on this,
Right. Yeah, it would certainly work in sections of it. Like you say, you'd have to incorporate it wherever it fits. But, I know it's been said in board meetings before that strategic plan that you turn into the state's just something that is required and it's put on a shelf. And that's not what this should be.
Right.
This should not be something this thick that's put on a shelf. I mean, it's specifics, and it's gonna change from year to year, you
Well,
know.
And it's basically an accountability document,
Right,
because
and it's-
this is what we're accomplishing, and your performance review is, your bonuses are based on these, but your performance review is gonna be based on the strategic plan goals for this particular
Right.
year. Is that,
Well, what I'm thinking is, we don't wanna get this mixed up, that this is what y'all are turning in. This is a separate
right,
plan that the board is requiring of a new director, where we'll know what we're, he or she's gonna know what we're expecting of them, and we're gonna, vice versa. And, part of it, and you could utilize that to put into your plans that you have to send into the State Department. But this would be usable.
right,
As far as assessment is concerned, that accountability reports typically that's not wrapped up completely. I usually don't get it until early December,
Mhm.
when it's published, usually right before the Christmas break. Now, that's gonna be state and federal metrics.
Mhm.
Both all together.
Mhm.
That's when they come out, so it's looking at it and what it is. You can understand that, like, this year's testing, you won't get all that wrapped up in the results.
Till the, yeah, right. We're always behind a year, not.
so strategic plan reporting then should be, then incorporate those, or, so we would have to, it would have to be after December, when everything's wrapped up then. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, all right,
And what a new director would need to do is utilize this year's test scores and have a format of what's required. And then he or she is going to say, okay, each school, I want this, this, and this in your plan of improvement, and have the sections laid out, whether it's facilities, whether it's parent involvement. We've got the testing, we've got that pretty well sewed up as far as what's expected there. Athletics, music program, just different things. And then he's not going to be doing it. He's going to get all this, and then someone at the school level will come up with theirs. We'll have one from each school, and then you put it together as a combination for the whole system.
right. So if we go back to these dates and say, if we said not later than, say, January 1st, January 15th, to develop this based on, I mean, you can put together the plan, but you'd have the test scores in, say, mid-December? Okay. So that would give enough time to actually produce, or to finish off the plan and present it to the board in January? I mean, yeah. So kind of as a practical matter, it'd be the first board meeting in January, so. Yeah. And I guess in the past, we haven't had January board meetings sometimes, so that may be an event, so. So what do you think, January 1st? I mean, and then the second paragraph says January 1st also, but the first year, that would give time. Yeah, so say if you said January 1st, that would give you time to present it to the first board meeting in January. And then, so that would give us, say, February 1, the board shall review. So that would give us basically a month to review it. And then we could discuss that in the,
And that would, yeah,
in the February board meeting.
I think so.
All right.
And then, once that's developed, it's not like they're going, we're going to have to go back and start over.
Right.
We've got a base.
Right,
The base plan is
Right.
here. And then, during the summer, you could look and see what's accomplished, what's not accomplished, and start,
Right.
you've got it for the next year.
right. And so that would give the new director basically 6 months to develop the plan and, get the test scores in and all that stuff, and and then
and
present it to
assess
the board in
what,
January.
assess what our system needs are,
Right.
and, go from
Yeah.
there.
And that gives them a real motivation to dive in and really understand what our system needs
Right.
and where they need the help. So I like that. So, all right. So then kind of paragraph 2 there kind of echoes that, but that's just going forward. We do the same
Right.
schedule every year going forward.
Right.
All right, so number 4, residency. We agree the director shall reside within the boundaries of Coffee County. We're fine with that.
I think that's what the board passed.
I think so, yeah,
And, of course, the board has the right
yeah.
to.
Yeah, we had pretty good
but
discussion
it
about
was
that. Yeah.
passed that they reside in the boundaries of Coffee County.
Okay. Compensation, starting salary, we kind of talked about that. 12 equal monthly installments, that's kind of how we do it. So, in no event shall the director be paid less than the starting annual salary set forth in the section of this contract. So that's kind of salary protection. Comments on that? Rita? I think we already kind of,
I think that's good, don't you? The
Yeah.
section.
yeah, I think that's standard. Performance bonuses. That is, as part of the strategic plan developed pursuant to section 3C above, the board will establish 4 objectively measurable benchmarks of the Coffee County schools that have met will entitle the director to the performance-based bonuses of $2,500 apiece for a total possible performance bonus of $10,000 annually.
And this is good because that refers back to the strategic
Right.
plan where
Right,
I was saying that's where those performance goals should be
right,
incorporated.
yeah,
Because he can't do it by himself. He or she can't do that by themselves. It's gonna take the whole school working toward that goal.
right,
And them providing the leadership.
right. That's absolutely. Withholding, all compensation to the director is subject to withholding and routine applicable deductions. That's standard language. Number 6, benefits. The director shall be eligible to participate on the same terms and conditions as other employees in all benefits established for school system professional employees. The board shall provide health, optical, disability, and life insurance for the director on the same terms offered to school system employees, and allow the director to use the same flexible benefit plans allowed for school system employees. The board shall also provide the individual contribution to the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System for the director. The board shall pay all professional dues on behalf of the director to the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents. Are we missing anything there?
It specifically lists health and optical, but we also have dental. I don't know if you want to cover that, and
Sure, we can put that in. That's,
that's the only thing I see.
okay. Yeah, that's easy enough. And life insurance, that's, okay. All right. Frida, anything there?
No, I don't see anything else.
Okay. Professional liability, number
Okay, let me ask you this. We've got another section in here on professional dues. It says the board shall pay all professional dues on behalf of the director to the tenants, but that specifically pertains to superintendents, so that
Right.
should be in that
Yeah.
paragraph, okay?
Professional liability, the board shall maintain liability insurance covering alleged wrongful acts and omissions of the director in the scope of his employment with the board. The board shall, to the extent permitted by law, directly or through insurance, defend the director, bear defense costs, and indemnify and hold the director harmless on demands, claims, suits, and legal proceedings brought by third parties against the director in his official capacity as agent and employee of the board, except this obligation of the board shall not exist with respect to violations of criminal law, intentional torts, improper personal gain, or willful misconduct, and in no extent will individual board members be considered liable for indemnifying the director against such demands, claims, suits, and legal proceeding. That seems to be standard wording to me, and I think that's in our current contract also. Yeah, we have that almost the exact same, pretty much the same wording in our current contract. Any changes there?
No, I don't think they made an S on proceedings, legal proceedings. Instead of just proceeding, maybe we need an S.
Oh. Proceedings, okay. Easy enough. All right, professional growth. The director is encouraged and expected to participate in professional growth and development activities, including maintaining membership in professional organizations, including but not limited to the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents and the American Association of School Administrators, and attending professional conferences at the local, state, and national levels. As a result, the board shall pay the professional dues for such organizations and shall pay for the director to attend the professional meetings approved by the board, including the actual and necessary expenses of said attendance, not paid by the State Department of Education in accordance with board policy. We could go back to the compensation and strike that, because there's repeat wording there.
Well, since that says included but not limited to the Tennessee.
Yeah, okay, well,
So I guess just leave that, because that's a benefit.
yeah, it doesn't hurt us, I don't
Uh-huh.
think, so, okay. All right, any other changes there? Okay. Work year and leave, section 9. Pursuant to section 3A above, it is understood and agreed that the director will devote however much time may be necessary to accomplish his duties. The board expects the director to maintain appropriate office hours during 257-day work year and be accessible and responsive at all other times. So that is correct, 257?
That's
Okay.
what central office follows, most of central office follows.
Okay,
That would be,
all right. The director shall earn how many vacation days per year? I got that blank, but how many?
so we earn 13 up here, but in previous contracts, I think it's been 20.
20? So,
I'm not, that's
okay.
kind of where y'all want to land.
Vacation days is usually a negotiable item anyway on contracts, so I'm fine with whatever our minimum is. 13, you said?
That's what professionals, most professional staff up here
Okay.
get 13.
So if we put 13 in, and if they wanted more, they can negotiate that.
Okay. But is that, if you get 13 vacation days, does that include Christmas, the same time it doesn't?
No, so most of the time we have, I think I'd have to pull our work calendar up, but our non-work days are usually, we use most of those we usually get one at spring break, and then we're required to work those 4 days, and then you could use vacation days during that time. And then at Thanksgiving, I think we get 2, so then you could use vacation, the other 3 days of vacation there. Usually at Christmas, try to give the whole entire time the teachers are gone. We may have to come back 1 day earlier. So we use a majority of our unpaid days during Christmas break.
Okay.
And then, did I miss anything?
Well,
Schedule?
if we reduce this to 13, what would those 7 days, what?
He wasn't working the 257. He was on 260, I think, or 261, whatever the school year was, and that's why he got extra days.
I guess that's confusing to me.
Yeah, very confusing.
So he was on the 261, so he got more vacation days to use. So like, he didn't get all the holidays, so we get like a President's Day. He probably didn't get President's Day, so he could have took off a vacation day that day. Otherwise, he has to work, or he or she has to work. So
But
there's
that
days,
vacation day get paid anyway.
right? Or you would just, I mean, he'd either have to, he or her would have to work, or they take a vacation day to be off,
Why would you not
Okay.
have the same
or they wouldn't get paid. 'cause it would
schedule
be
as central office staff?
I don't know why that's always been.
And he changed
Well, he was trying to change it in the contract, in the last contract, but it didn't pass.
Yeah,
So he was trying to change his days to accommodate the schedule here,
right,
to follow that schedule.
yeah, okay.
So,
Because it's 13 vacation days and then 2 personal days. So really you get 15 days. total.
so what, when did all that, is the 20 days always been for a director?
I don't know what Dr. McFall's was, but I know that Dr. Lawson's was always 20, but I'm not sure what hers was previous to that. I don't know.
And that's in addition, that's not in addition to the days everybody else gets off.
No, so a lot of times their calendar, so like where we would be off the entire Christmas break, they would have to take off some vacation days to accommodate that. So like they may only get 3 days at Christmas break and they would use the rest of their days if they weren't on our calendar.
So the previous superintendent had to take vacation days to be off for 2 weeks at Christmas?
Hmm. If he wanted to be, sometimes he came into work and worked that time, but yeah, he was, because he was, it's
But I
contract
mean,
days.
what would you do up here during Christmas?
I think he was working on cleaning off his desk and salary stuff and just catching up on emails and, I'm not
Is
certain.
the superintendent's calendar the only one that's different from everybody in the central
Mhm.
office?
it used to be, yes ma'am. If y'all do the 257, it'll be the same as central office.
Which I think,
I mean, that's something to think about because, I mean, as a director, I'd rather be on your schedule. I'd rather get off 2
I
weeks
agree,
at
I don't
Christmas
know what benefit it is to be here and
I-
not
I
have
don't
anyone
either.
else here to help.
and
like,
have to
yeah.
come up and take a
So, Yeah, he had to use more vacation when we were actually just either a holiday pay or off days, or just unpaid days. So
I-
he would have to use a vacation day to be off if he wanted to be off the same amount of time we were.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
well, and
To me, it makes more sense. I mean, I'd have to think it through, but, I mean, I don't know why their calendar would be any different
I can go look and see what Dr. McFall was.
that doesn't make any sense to me.
unless it's for them to have more vacation in the summer. I don't know. It wouldn't help, would it?
But I think
Okay.
I think they maybe took off the same, not for him, but maybe the idea was to work the full school year, because usually the school year is like 261 or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And maybe give them more days to use, like, be more flexible with their day. Like, if they wanted to take a week vacation in the summer and work during Christmas break, that was more
Oh, right.
flexible for them to do.
Versus a practical
You could
matter,
still do
it's
that.
24/7, 365.
Right.
It's really
I'm
what
gonna
it
see
comes
if I
down to.
can- I'm gonna see what Dr. McFall was on, if I can still pull her up.
I had a copy of her contract somewhere, but I didn't print it out.
I certainly wouldn't want to penalize a new director by changing it, but I wonder what the other directors are, what kind of calendar day they're on. It just kind of odd to me.
Supervisor,
Same as it, that's what, yeah.
there's only maybe 3 to 4 people that up here, it might not even be 3, that don't follow the 257. There's a couple people that are 221, maybe 211, but most people follow the 257. I can't pull her, she's not.
To me, I think it would be, just
Yeah.
consistent to be on the same schedule as everybody else.
Yeah.
Because as a practical matter, if you're the director, you're going to be on call anyway, so.
I can tell you though that the work calendars I've looked at, so like I build a work calendar based on the number of days. So like I'll build a calendar for everyone that works 221 days.
Mhm.
And then I build a work calendar for everyone that works 257.
Mhm.
That 260 and 261 has existed since as far back as I can remember,
Hmm.
just looking at previous years. So I think it's been around a long time. And so I think 257, I mean, I don't know what they do when everyone else is not here, but I think 257 makes sense.
Raid the refrigerator, I don't know.
Well, I would still like I mean, I know the director is the CEO, you might say, and the director should have, you know, more, maybe more leeway than just everybody else. And if they did go to 257, then they could have the flexibility of saying, look, I need to work 2 or 3 days spring break, and I'm going to take those 3 in the summer. You know, I don't want to dictate, make it too
Right.
Yeah, so
too
she-
rigid. You know what I'm saying? Because there's just so many things that happen every day that you work more than what you actually getting paid for anyway, and to give them that flexibility that if you know, and I think anybody is do that if
I'm gonna
they're
print
doing
you
their
guys
job.
the 257 work calendar, and you can look at it, and it tells you the days that are off and the days that are paid holidays, and just so you can see
Right.
kind of,
and
what
if you
we
could
follow
yeah
up
if you
here.
could send that out for both calendars, like the 257 and the 260 or 261.
I didn't make a 261
Okay,
for this year. So
okay.
like, also think about that. Think about sometimes there's 200, depending on if it's leap year or whatever, there's
Right.
261 and then there's
Yeah,
260.
right. So it's every
So
4 years it's a
It could change,
261.
the number could
Right.
change, yeah. So I
right.
usually would make that as, I'd make
Mhm.
one, but
Right.
I didn't make one this year because
Well, that's
it's gone.
I wonder if these.
I'm gonna print you guys.
To me, it makes sense just with the office being open, that,
I,
It's on the color one. It's on the color one, this one. I just think the 20 was allowed because of the difference between the 260 or 261 and gave them, what, 7 more vacation days to be able to use on days that we were they were
but they
supposed to be
had to,
working.
but they had to count them during the Christmas, like,
Yes, they did.
see, so this other way, they would just be off
Hmm.
when everybody else is.
And I'm printing our calendar for up here so you can look at it,
Okay.
the one I built for this school year. So you can look at it and see when they would be off, and then I could probably explain how, like, if you didn't, if you made them 260, then they might have to work, they might get off Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, and they'd have to work the rest of them. It
Well,
just was
that's-
odd how.
It really doesn't make sense, because the schools are closed down during Christmas.
I know, but that's
And there's
how it
no
used to be.
everyday activity going on, and no.
you know,
These labels are like, the red days are like our paid holidays, so those are the days we get paid for. And then the gray days are days that are just off, so
Right.
they're unpaid days.
Right.
And so basically, I'd only have a few days with the 261 calendar to work with, and so I usually would get with the director and be like, okay, what days do you want Christmas Eve? Do you want Christmas Day? What 4 days or 5 days do you want off? And
Oh.
so that's what.
That's,
But then he could use the other 20 vacation days to take off other days.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why it makes sense for them to follow the 257 because they're here when people office is here,
mm-hmm.
and then you don't have another calendar to build, and then they don't have to choose when they pick when they use their vacation days. They can kind of streamline how it works up here with everyone else.
I guess I'm just in favor of the 257, but, you know, unless there's some compelling reason to go to the 260, 261.
Yeah, I think I'd have to think about it, but it seems more sensible.
Question mark there, okay.
Okay.
Okay, the director shall earn 13 vacation days per year. Vacation shall not accrue from year to year. Vacation time shall be avoided at the beginning and end of the school year.
Well,
So-
now, is
So if you
that,
look at that calendar, so look at November, and you see Thanksgiving week. So like up here, if we want to be off the entire week, we take 3 vacation days or a personal day
Right.
and 2 vacation days, whatever you have in your balance. So that's kind of what we follow up here, and that's kind of follows the 13 days. Pretty much, it follows the same line as the 13 days. That's what we do.
How
That make
many
more sense?
paid vacation days did the central office get? 13?
We get 13 if you're on 257.
Okay, if the director's getting 20, it looks to me like they would be still getting your 13 vacation days and 7 more days.
Mm-hmm.
So
I was just saying that on the 260 calendar, they would get you would probably want to give them more.
why would you wouldn't even have to change the calendar. If we
Right.
want to still give the director 20 vacation days, they would follow the same calendar,
Exactly.
and then they've got 7 vacation days for the summer.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, I don't think it should have to, we
Well,
don't need to do a calendar,
Yeah.
a different calendar for.
I agree with that.
And so we need to put a question mark here, whether, if we give the director 13 vacation days, they're getting the same as the other central office employees. I don't want to, if they've been getting 7 more days.
Right.
And what you're telling me is that if they wanted to work during Christmas, because they're getting the same thing as you,
Mhm.
they want to work through Christmas, they'd add it to their 7
Mm-hmm.
and have a bigger vacation in the summer.
Yeah, so basically, if you wanted to trade out days, you could do that as well. Say, I want to work
Right.
December 23rd, 24th, and then,
Add it
but
to
I want to
my-
be
Yeah.
off spring break. one of the
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
That's,
That's a little
To
flexible.
me, that would be more reasonable, and what we'd have to decide whether in this new contract, if we're gonna provide 13 vacation days or 20. But I don't think we need to go to all these different calendars, that would just be something they would
Right.
document, this, they're going by this
Yeah.
calendar. If they wanted to add 3 days to their 7, they'd have to work, but it should be on days that's actually
Right,
something
right.
to do. You
Yeah.
know, like spring break, I'm sure there's a lot of
tons to
things
do.
that can
'Cause
go
we're
during
working through-
spring
we're
break
working
and
on budget,
Thanksgiving,
spring break,
right?
So, yeah.
Those two
usually.
those 2 times of the year,
Mhm.
you're gonna be so busy, but a lot of times during Christmas break, I mean, everything's shut down, seems
Right.
like.
Yeah. So,
Anyway, that would just be up.
so that makes
that's-
sense to me.
Well, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
you know?
And that's
Exactly.
true.
So,
We do.
I know, I remember, I remember that myself, that everybody thought you just did what you wanted to, but it was hard to even take off, period.
well, and like I say, my experience in a contract like this, vacation days are usually a negotiable item. They're
Right,
going to come in and say,
right.
well, I need some more vacation day,
Right.
and that's something you negotiate. So,
But it certainly
I'd put it
didn't
at
need to be over
13,
20,
and,
yeah,
and then if they want to negotiate that,
right.
and, if they need to be in here, they're going to need to be in here
And
anyway.
then they
'Cause-
can see the calendar, this
Yeah.
is something we can show them, this is
Right.
the calendar.
Exactly. Okay. The director may accumulate and use personal leave days in accordance with state law and the board's policy. So what is a personal leave day as opposed to sick
You
leave
get
as
two-
opposed to?
You get 2
okay.
personal days that you can use.
Okay,
They're a little less strict than sick days. You can just use them personal day
Okay.
whenever. Kind of like vacation days. They're same.
right,
But we don't accumulate. They roll into your sick time.
right.
So if you don't use them, they roll to sick.
Okay. So, all right,
So basically, you could get
You get one.
15,
Right.
because they don't roll over anyway.
Right.
You're gonna wanna use your personal days, or they're
Right.
just gone,
exactly. Okay,
so that would be 2 days that could be added.
I know a lot
Two.
of times
Needed.
people don't,
Yeah.
supervisors, or maybe I'm speaking, or won't use their personal days and they'll let them roll to sick.
right.
And that way when they retire.
Oh, they roll over to sick?
They do, yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
I didn't realize that.
They do.
Oh, I didn't realize
And
they
you
did
get all that paid out when you retire.
Roll
Yeah,
them in to help with their
Oh,
retirement.
When did that change? Because I know used to, if you didn't use your personal days,
It's been a while.
has it?
Mhm.
Because I know that was, I remember you had to use them up, or you didn't, you just lost them.
All certified get 2 days.
Oh, okay.
All certified get 2 days, and then all of our central office, and I think all classified get one.
Well, what about for, some, for death in the family? Is that included in the personal days?
And that's bereavement.
3 bereavement days. But of course, those don't roll over.
Well, it depends on what family member it was. So it's 3 for, I'd have to pull the policy up, but it does change. So if it's a parent, a child, spouse, anyone directly related, immediate family, it's 5 days.
Mhm.
And then if it's like step parent, grandparent, whatever, I'd have to pull a policy up to see, it's 3. So
Mhm.
it depends on what family member it is, and how many days you get.
All right. So paragraph D, the director shall be granted 1 day of sick leave for each month of employment. The director may accumulate unused sick leave days, and any unused sick leave days may be used for retirement credit in accordance with the policies of the Tennessee Consolidated Retirement System. The director may carry over any accumulated sick leave from his previous district, as well as accumulated sick leave earned at the Tennessee Department of Education pursuant to state law. So, is that,
That's what we currently do.
okay? All right. So, anything there, Rita?
No, I think that
Okay.
was pretty well.
Expenses,
We
Uh,
wouldn't need to put in personal days in there, would we? I mean, that's just a given that the personal days will carry over, so that doesn't have to be in the
That's-
contract.
I think you covered it in the one before when it says in accordance to state law and board policy. So we would just follow what we do.
right?
Yeah, okay, yeah, that,
What we do
I
for
didn't
everybody.
see that section. Yes, okay.
All right. Expenses, the board shall pay the director a moving allowance upon the execution of this contract, if applicable, at the board's discretion. So we put in there last time, at the board's discretion. We had kind of penciled in $10,000, but I don't know, have you seen what typical moving expenses are for,
Have we provided moving expenses in the past?
Do you have Ladonna? Again, does it say? Was
we
she
did
re-
put in
was she
here, at-
Local,
Yeah.
McCall, was she local?
No, she moved here.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
We did put in here at the board's discretion,
Right.
so
Right,
if somebody was already living here,
Right.
obviously that's gonna.
right. Okay. But you know, we do need to take into account, like if somebody did have to move here, they couldn't just automatically come here and move into a house, they'd have to rent. or
Right. Well, that's the next paragraph is
Temporary
750.
housing, yeah.
Yeah. Temporary housing,
We could
so,
just put in amount and put since it's got phone, as at the board's discretion.
right. Once again, yeah, these are,
Right.
so I'm thinking, the 10,000
Yeah.
is kind of what I've seen in some of
Right.
these other contracts.
Okay.
Oh, we don't see anything in hers, so I don't know
Yeah.
that we've ever.
I don't know if we've ever paid.
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever paid that. I mean, I don't know if we ought to just let that be part of the negotiation process, I don't know.
We could just say,
If somebody's coming in here to make $185,000, they may be willing to move themselves here. I don't,
yeah, I
but
mean,
I
we,
guess, I guess maybe we do need that in there, but it wasn't in, let's see. I know it wasn't in the previous contract. Of course, there wasn't, but the contract should have been determined before anyone's hired.
right,
So this would not have to, this wouldn't be specific to the
Right.
previous.
exactly,
It was
right.
so, wasn't anything in
And
here?
then it's, once again, both these at the board's discretion,
Mhm.
and, it's probably another
Maybe
thing
we
that's
just need to
negotiable.
put, the board shall pay the director of moving allowance, if applicable at the board's discretion, and with amount to be determined or something, I don't know. But not to exceed, I guess that's what that's saying though, isn't it?
Of not to
And the-
exceed,
Washington County one, they have 5,000, and it looks like when they hired her, it looks like they already knew who they wanted, and it says to move her from Davidson County to Washington County.
oh,
That was within the state.
well, so we could say not to exceed at the board's discretion,
Right.
that kind of covers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right. Right. You wouldn't just,
Yeah.
automatically hand somebody the money and, yeah.
Yeah, so,
And we could put, moving cost not to exceed.
well, we could say reimbursement, call it instead of a moving allowance, a moving reimbursement. which would imply
Uh,
worksheets.
Yeah, with a, and just put, the director shall provide, documents,
Supporting documents,
yeah, supporting documents for reimbursement.
yeah. Okay,
Not to exceed, did you say 10,000? Not to exceed
Yeah.
$10,000. And the director shall provide supporting documentation. What did I say?
for reimbursement,
Supporting, director shall provide supporting documentation of expenses.
okay. Okay. And, the board shall pay the director a temporary housing allowance in the amount of $750 per month for the first 3 months of this contract at the board's discretion. So what does rent for go?
Tell you what, $750, it's
What's
gonna be
that?
a shack.
Yeah,
Now, I mean, in the past, that would, but it won't work.
living in the apartments out at Oakley. You can rent a trailer out there.
I'm telling you, $750 would not, I don't know where you can rent anything for that, except for what I'm renting.
You also have to remember security deposit, there's a lot of money that's going to be
Right.
involved.
Yeah,
A rent, you got not only the rent, but security
Well-
deposit, there's going to be money.
well, the question is, are we totally reimbursing them for
Right.
everything, or are we giving
Right,
them an
just
allowance?
Giving, yeah,
Yeah.
toward,
And I think the intent of
Yeah.
this was the
you'll
allowance
give them that much.
to offset a little bit.
And
yeah.
it should be a limit, because we, we can't,
Oh, we
just
say
say,
3
okay.
months, yeah,
oh, okay, I didn't read far enough.
yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean,
And
we're
I think
not,
we need to mark out that April, May, and June.
yeah, we're not putting them up at Mar-a-Lago or something like that, so,
Board will pay direct temporary housing amounts. Temporary. We can leave it at that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's, they just need to know that's, they're gonna have to pay the rest, because
Right.
it's not gonna probably
yeah,
get.
yeah, and I think that's fair, so it offsets some of the
Mm-hmm.
costs, so. So C, the board shall provide the director the technology necessary to carry out the duties of the director, including a laptop, home printer, fax scanner, a smartphone, tablet, or similar device, and I think that's kind of what we got in our current contract, and that's kind of standard. Okay,
Did I hear the word fax scan?
That's what I said. It's got printer.
we can take fax out, yeah.
dot-
Because we do not have fax.
Right, they don't even,
A
have-
scanner would work, but it doesn't have to be a fax.
Yeah, I think this is,
we don't even have fax, I don't even have fax at all.
I can strike that, yeah, scanners probably, yeah,
Only comment I'm not.
dated language,
Being specific, the technology required to do this.
right.
I don't know
Right.
if need be, because.
It changes.
Things that are out there.
Right.
I don't know, that's just a suggestion.
I agree.
I'm fine with that because it changes so much, so. So we could just strike that whole including section.
Yeah, the board shall provide the director the technology necessary to carry out the duties of the director.
A smartphone, yeah.
And just,
I mean,
And
do we
just-
have dumb phones anymore? But,
and just take that all off.
yeah,
because-
that works. The board recognizes that it is critical to the Coffee County Schools for the director to be involved in civic organizations. As a result, the board will pay the director's membership fees in up to 2 civic organizations of his choice.
And that's in addition to those professional.
Right,
organizations.
right,
Okay.
yeah, so that's like Rotary.
This is local. Mhm,
Yeah.
Okay.
So do we want to specify local civic organizations? There was some discussion at that at our last meeting, so. Any thoughts on that?
And as approved. Okay, you could put, as a result, the board will pay the director's membership fees take out in, up to, let's see. As a result, the board will pay the director's membership fees for a minimum of 2. That way we won't say up to, for a minimum of 2 civic organizations, and take out of his choice as approved by the board.
Okay,
You know, I think we would need to know, you know, what civic
Right.
organization they're gonna be a member of.
right. And I think that was a little point of contention that we had here recently too, is, you know, we want the director out in the community representing the schools, and so whatever we can do to encourage that, okay. So this section E is right out of our current contract, I think, was what the board shall reimburse the director for all actual and necessary travel and other expenses required in the performance of official duties during employment under this contract, subject to such limitations as provided by law and by board policy. The director shall receive a monthly / expense allowance for adjoining or in-county mileage expenses of $500 per month, not to exceed $6,000 annually. Additional mileage and expenses shall be paid for travel required by the director during the performance of official duties that extends beyond one county outside Coffee County at the rate established for other school employees with proper reimbursement claims submitted. That is directly out of the current contract.
What does that mean, extends beyond one county? So, if they go to Rutherford County, it's included in the 6,000.
Right.
If they go to Davidson County, they get mileage back and forth to Davidson.
Basically, if it touches us, anything that touches us, would be considered
Would
the
be
one
in that
county.
6,000.
Mhm. And then anything outside of what touches us would be
Okay.
mileage.
Where are most of the in-state meetings occurring? They're not occurring with counties that touch us, are they?
No, it's like Pigeon Forge,
Yeah,
Nashville.
right. Yeah.
I think Lewisburg
So basically,
sometimes.
yeah. So basically, what the 6,000 is for in-house mileage
Run
in
around
the
with
county.
schools, yeah.
Because, you know, state meetings are usually in Columbia, Chattanooga, Nashville. Yeah,
Right. So what is standard mileage rate now? I think is around 65 cents a gallon.
70
or
cents.
65.
It's
What's that?
70 cents.
70 cents a mile? Wow, I'm undercharging. So I'm charging 65, so I'm missing out. Okay,
It changes
so-
every January.
So basically, yeah, so at 70 cents a mile, that's, you know,
so,
what, yeah, that's about 700 miles, huh?
so
maybe-
for so actually, that's just an addition to the salary,
Right, yeah,
to be driving your car around.
Right.
So that's another incentive for a director.
Right.
And that's what you gotta look at, it's basically, because do the other central office employees get mileage? Do you have to keep up with it? You keep up with it?
Yeah, so
Okay.
there's a log they turn in when they go to the schools,
So like it used, yeah, okay.
unless it's out of county travel, and then they do a travel expense form.
so that's
And
about,
teachers, are there any teachers that go from one school to the next? Do they get mileage?
We have some CTE teachers that travel between the high school and Raider Academy, and they get mileage.
Okay.
And then I think homebound teachers get mileage to and
Okay.
from their location. So we have
Okay.
a handful of teachers that get, and then academic coaches get mileage as well
Okay.
between schools.
so, yeah, so roughly 650 to 700 miles a month running around to schools and stuff. That's probably not unreasonable, I don't think. I mean, yeah, I was,
Especially with
Okay.
gas, yeah. Oh, yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay,
But you think about too, that part of that 70 cents is for wear and tear as well.
right,
So it's just not only for.
right, right.
what
It's
you're
not just
saying,
mileage,
You
not
wouldn't
just
do
gas.
500 or 600
Yep,
within the school.
Insurance, yeah,
I mean, that's,
yeah.
yeah.
When my travel for the month gets up around $100,
Uh-huh. Right.
yeah.
And you probably travel as much as anybody in the system as far as you know, a system-wide employee. So the director's really getting a benefit. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
it really is, because that's,
Yeah,
it's a perk for them, and
So-
it's just,
actual gas probably,
no.
That's, well, it
No.
depends if it's within the like within the
One
surrounding
county
counties.
around, and what we were saying is one county around is normally not where your meetings are.
So if they go to Murfreesboro for conference.
Yeah.
That it would be included in that,
Yeah.
but if they go anywhere else, it's.
Yeah.
so-
no big meetings in Grundy County, so. I know you guys are disappointed. So, so do we want to leave it at that?
I think it's been that way. It's just
Yeah.
a perk for the.
Yeah,
and-
I think so. Well, and still there's wear and
it's-
tear in your
it's-
vehicle
I
too.
wonder
so.
how other systems handle that, because it's an addition. to
I
their
looked through
salary.
several contracts and more do it this way than.
Is
than
it that
mileage. Some do
amount?
it just mileage, yeah.
And we're comparable with the
Yeah, yeah,
amount.
yeah, this
Okay.
seems to be, now, it was listed on the salary sheet here. I think some of them had some mileage numbers on here. And some
Oh,
of them
yeah,
had some
some of 'em.
pretty big ones, actually. So 12,500 transportation supplement for, I don't know where Huntington was,
Here was 6,000 for Johnson,
yeah, here's
for
one,
Johnson County. Where's
Haywood
that?
County, they give them a car, I guess. Well,
And they have a lot lower salary too, though.
yeah.
Here's a 7,500 travel supplement for
Yeah, here's
Lenore
one.
City.
Trenton Special, 550 Calva, plus 400 per month annuity. I don't know what that annuity is. Huh. So we seem to be within range, I think.
Right.
5,400 yearly allowance for Elizabethton.
We're really gonna be. Right up with everybody.
You'll be
Yeah.
above Tullahoma. If you go to the 105, 2,000 bonus,
Yeah.
2,000 knowledge, you'll be above
Right.
Tullahoma.
And I'm looking at Marion County, it's 189. It doesn't say anything about their travel, but the rest, all the others stated if they were adding for travel. But anyway, we just leave it that way,
Okay.
I think. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we've been doing, and
okay.
Okay, performance evaluation. Annually and no later than the 15th day of December each calendar year during the term of this contract, the board shall evaluate the director's performance as director of Coffee County Schools. Now, currently, we do that in June. But we had a little discussion at our last meeting about if that would be better for us to look at the end of the school year or end of the calendar year.
It has to be completed now by April 1st on the director's evaluation.
That's our policy. Okay. So it has to be completed by April 1st? So,
So I usually start in January.
okay,
I don't know what policy that is.
I think that's right. So we'd need to change that to match our policy, I think.
Right. And to me, how can you evaluate a director's performance when they've only been, for that year
Right.
in school, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah.
But in a way, it should coincide with the 5-year plan, because, you're going to be evaluating them for their performance goals. And that ought to all go along with, everything needs to be in sync. You know, like with the evaluation we send out. To me, that would be part of the performance of whether or not he or she met the performance goals. The evaluation that we do as a board, that would be part of it, You may think that they didn't meet the goal. I may think they
Right.
did, and then there would be consensus of the board.
What about this? What if we said in accordance with policy, and then we go back and look at changing policy? I mean, because, yeah, the April 1st date, you're right, does not make any sense to me, so.
I didn't realize we were evaluating a director on December the 15th.
No, this was just example language
Oh,
for,
okay, this is
Yeah.
just put in there.
yeah,
Okay.
we do it the first, April.
All right. Well, that would need to go along with everything else, evaluating the performance goals of the director.
Right. And so that is, right, but right now our policy says April 1st, right?
Does it say no later than April 1st?
Because, yeah, when we do the evaluation, I mean, you're exactly right, that doesn't make any sense at all,
Right.
so,
It
yeah,
all needs to be at the same time,
right.
because that would be
So if we had our strategic plan where we were
Right now
tying
it
it
was
to
by
January
February.
1st,
and then we reviewed it, and then February,
right. So then February 1 for the evaluation? Because if they
Yeah.
hit their strategic plan goals, so you
Yeah.
tie it back to the, okay.
yeah,
But we'd have to modify our
or policy.
policy, which,
So this one doesn't say.
Yeah, I don't think it gives a
It doesn't
specific
say-
date.
It doesn't give a date, but it says that the performance of the director will be reviewed in accordance with the specified goals. But currently, we've been doing it we've been having it done by April.
And I don't think there was a
And then-
set date, because, there,
It may be the board self-evaluation
Well,
is why I got that. Because we
right,
have
but
to
I'm,
run-
actually, I
Right.
think it's in Dr. Lawson's contract. It's probably where you'd have to look. I believe, I could be wrong, but
Here it is, professional performance evaluation.
yeah, by the first day of April each
Yeah,
calendar
that's
year.
where it
so
came
that's-
from. So
yeah.
really, it's in the contract, so that's
Right.
not a policy.
Right, it's not a policy,
Mm-hmm.
so we could do February 1st and go from there, okay. That works.
What date are you putting?
February 1st, tied to what we had on the strategic plan. Okay, good. I like that. Okay, so in conducting this evaluation, the board shall use the evaluation format pursuant to section 11B. Well, I need to change that number, so. Oh, that's right, 11B below, and shall include a review of the director's progress towards goals established by the board pursuant to section 3B above, which is strategic plan, the working relationships between the director and the board, the staff, the students, and the community at large, and any other matter relative to the duties of director pursuant to section 3A of this contract. So that ties it back to the
That's
strategic
all.
plan, yes. Prior to this evaluation, the director should provide the board a written self-appraisal using the evaluation form pursuant to 11B below, and the board shall consider the director's self-appraisal and conducting the review of the director. If you have any changes, let me know. So the board shall provide the director with a written copy of its evaluation. The director shall have the right to make a written response to the evaluation, which shall be attached to the board's written evaluation. The board shall devote at least a portion of a scheduled board meeting to conduct the director's evaluation to discuss the working relationship between the director and the board. The board shall provide evaluative feedback and establish performance criteria which can be used constructively by the director during the subsequent year. So having a discussion on the working relationship between the director and the board, I think is important. Any,
No, I think that's good.
okay, yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward language. Okay, so B, the board and the director will endeavor to agree upon the evaluation format no later than February 1, so we would need
We need
to,
to change that because we're just doing the evaluation on the first.
right, so we would want to have, what? January 1?
The board and director shall endeavor to agree upon the evaluation format no later than February 1st of the preceding year
No, that's not,
of any update. So this is the time that we would agree on the format that we're
Right.
going to use.
right,
Every year we,
okay, so a
So-
year in advance, yeah,
Uh-huh.
okay.
that,
Which is fair
Which is
because that's, he
okay.
knows what he's
Yeah,
being evaluated
right.
on. Okay, that makes sense. Okay,
but you would, okay, let's think this out. If we're gonna be doing his evaluation on February 1st, and we're gonna be, looking at the strategic plan, if they've met the performance goals, then when, we probably don't wanna determine the format of of the board's evaluation of him. I mean, why would we change it?
we probably wouldn't, we kind of
mean-
use the standard format anyway, so.
What I'm thinking is, would you change the way you evaluate them in the middle of the stream?
No, I think it's, I think what this is saying, and,
Every year you have to come up with the format.
right, well, yeah, or it could be the
We
same
always use
format.
TSBA,
What's that?
the performance evaluation. Is that what we're talking about?
Right.
The performance evaluation for
Right.
the director,
The format,
the
yeah,
format. And-
right.
And
So he
I
knows.
guess we've got the option of changing it.
And it does need to be updated because the stuff that is in it is not correct.
Right,
Mhm.
we're working
So
on
Right.
that too,
when
yeah,
you start it,
Yeah.
like when you put
Right.
it on,
yeah,
'cause you're gonna show them that, or
Right.
yeah, that's coming yet too.
And that's something I
Yeah.
would, as a director, I would wanna know what I'm gonna be evaluated
Right.
on, where I can work toward those, where I hit all those bullets, and I'll work toward that.
Well, that's what it's saying here, is that.
And I guess the
format is
date's what's
setting-
confusing me.
Yeah, a year in advance, so that he knows what the format is for his performance throughout the year, I think. So that
So
makes
do we have
sense.
one now, a year in advance? That's what I'm thinking, we need
Well, probably not.
one, we
Yeah.
need the format that we're
Right.
gonna use.
Right,
well, we have the format. It was voted on in the August board meeting of 2000, with Mr. Martin,
right.
Right.
but
I-
it needs to be updated.
We-
It's not correct.
Well, doesn't TSBA, they don't give us
We got some examples,
We've got
and,
some examples.
yeah,
It's just a few.
and we talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
We did the director evaluation committee. Are you on that one too? And-
I don't know.
Well, we had some examples that we were looking at
Uh-huh.
that to kind of simplify
Right.
it, because, yeah, the one we have right now really needs some work,
Yeah.
so.
So what we need to figure out is when we're gonna determine the format for the evaluation. We've got one now, we're gonna,
Well,
like if a new director comes in, June 1st,
right.
then will we have one in
We
place?
would
for-
need to have one in place
by
before they
then.
started, yeah, so I think that's
Maybe we
kind
say
of,
June
yeah.
1st.
After we get the contract and all
Right.
this stuff down, probably the next thing we need to do is work on that evaluation form,
right.
so, yeah, I would agree, so,
That was a higher date. I mean, that we should have that.
Right,
yeah.
right,
And I think that would be fair,
right.
yeah,
'Cause they-
so,
Yeah,
yeah,
so Would that work? Could give us some time to,
Yeah,
because February 1st already passed.
yeah. But
And we-
he wasn't here anyway, so.
Right,
so
but
it'd be
what,
something was already in place. so-
yeah.
So he knows what he's working on
Right.
coming in, and it's gonna be a short, not a full year he's evaluated anyway, so we'd have to.
So
kind
we
of-
could come up with something by June 1st. That work, then, wouldn't it?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah. It's just one more meeting. Update to the board strategic plan, that event. The board may develop a format and inform the director, so that's, all right. Board number 12, board director relationships communications. A, the board and the director agree they shall work with each other in the spirit of cooperation and teamwork and shall provide each other periodic opportunity to discuss board director relationships and communications. I am completely in agreement with that one. B, the director acknowledges the board's role to govern the Coffee County schools as the elected representatives of the citizens of Coffee County. Accordingly, the director agrees to discuss any significant changes in the operation or structure of the administrative of the Coffee County schools with the board prior to implementing any such changes. I'm fully in agreement with that. C, the board agrees that individual board members will not give direction to the director or any employee of Coffee County Schools regarding the management of Coffee County Schools or the solution of specific problems, and that they and that they shall refer all personnel complaints and other communications concerning the administration of Coffee County Schools to the director for investigation and report to the board. So this is similar language to what we have now, that we're basically referring all complaints to the director. D, the board collectively or by its individual members shall promptly refer to the director all criticisms, complaints, and suggestions called to their attention relative to the director's performance of his duties of the operation of Coffee County Schools for the director's study and recommendations. So I guess if we get a specific complaint, it goes to the director to resolve. So. Any changes or suggestions here?
No, and I guess what that means, if, for instance, if there's a lot of criticisms from parents and it's not being solved, you know, then we would have the right to sit down with the director and
Right,
say, this is what we're seeing, how can we work this out?
right. Yeah, that's kind of the way I read that is, you know,
Okay. And that way, it's not just, out there to keep ballooning.
right,
and getting, yeah,
right. But we're.
we're addressing the situation, in
yeah.
other words.
Yeah, we're prohibited from going into the schools and
Right.
meddling with stuff like that. I mean,
Exactly.
we don't want that, so that's the director's, okay?
And this is, you know, saying that the individual board members cannot try to solve problems, that we follow the chain of command like
Right.
everybody else does.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that just kind of lays that out, yeah. All right. 13, loyalty. The director shall devote full-time attention, knowledge, and skills solely and exclusively to the business and interests of the board and the Coffee County school system. The director may, however, undertake consulting work, speaking engagements, writing, lecturing, or other activities which do not interfere with the discharge of the director's duties and responsibilities. And I think we have similar language in the current contract. So.
Okay, and on that, how would we determine that interferes with the director's duties? And you know, for instance, say someone took a sabbatical or whatever with a university and taught one night a week or whatever, we would allow that.
If it didn't interfere with their
And you know,
duties.
it's like a second job.
Yeah. I mean, that,
And sometimes that would be distracting if you're making this kind of money and you're going to take a second job.
right,
Not an occasional lecture
Right.
or, I don't know. That's just,
you,
time attention director may have undertake, I would put as approved by the board.
Yeah, at the discretion of the board?
At the
Yeah.
discretion of the board.
Yeah,
And, you
okay,
know, that's not saying you can't do it, but
yeah,
it would be something the board would need to
just let us know.
look at
Yeah,
to see if that's appropriate,
Right.
you know.
that works. Yeah. Okay, tenure. The director hereby forfeits any right to any tenure in the Coffee County school system and agrees that upon termination of this contract, his employment in the Coffee County school system will terminate. So, okay. Contract termination. This employment,
And what does that mean exactly, forfeit any right to tenure in the Coffee County school system?
I'm not,
And upon the once you're terminated,
I believe the director does not maintain tenure in the school like a tenured teacher. That's kind of, right, right.
okay, so I guess that when it means tenure, it means employment. I guess that tenure. And when it's talking about tenure, it's talking about employment, not,
Right.
not tenure like we
Right.
look at. That's what was confusing. So the director hereby forfeits any rights to employment in the Coffee County school system. I think that makes more sense than
Okay.
tenure, because when I was looking at it, I'm thinking, how can we grant them tenure? You know, that's
Yeah.
like, but that means employment.
That works.
Okay. I think that would be more explanatory.
Okay. Okay, and
Wait, let's see. As you know, and you might put it this way, as the discretion of the board, because there's a possibility that contract is does that mean terminated? That it may be mutually, you know, the person just decides, you know, I'm not gonna ask for any more, I'm not gonna ask to continue, I'm gonna retire, but they may wanna come back, we may need them as a consultant or something on down the road, and this would eliminate it if we didn't put at the discretion of the board. Because, I mean, we would lose out on a lot of valuable resources
Right.
if we,
And a good example would be someone who is the director of schools that's tenured in Coffee County school system as a teacher.
right,
And their physical health or something, they needed to just step down for some unforeseen reason.
right,
They could still want to be a teacher and still.
right. Still have employment or whatever, right.
okay. At the discretion of,
Okay, the director hereby forfeits, okay, any rights to employment in the Coffee County school system and agrees that upon the termination date of this contract, his employment in the Coffee County school system will terminate, let's see.
I
So
mean,
that's just saying it's over once,
Yeah.
so we gotta,
but but if you had a
this-
separate contract as a consultant, then it would be a whole different animal.
the director hereby forfeits any rights. It's just, but the way I'm reading it though, you're forfeiting any right to even continue any kind of, situation with Coffee County schools, any kind of, and I guess the heading is tenure, so it probably needs to remain tenure, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's,
Yeah, it probably needs to remain tenure, I just wouldn't, but, to me, it may be referring like if it was terminated, you know, not just,
well, at the end of this contract, I mean, if it's not renewed, basically, then his employment is done, so.
okay, let's just give an example, say I was director of schools, and I thought, and I've got 1 year, and I'm thinking with the end of this year, I'm not gonna asked for it to be renewed, so my contract terminated. But if I wanted to, become a substitute teacher, or maybe, fill in for a teacher, I mean, I don't think that they ought to, we shouldn't, unless they've been terminated for cause. I guess that's what I'm saying. If they're terminated for cause, they're forfeiting their right to continue tenure. Maybe that needs to be in there. Because there's a, you're penalizing somebody that's got a professional license that no longer wants to be the director, maybe just retiring, but they may want to, well, look at Dr. Powell, Of course, he's never a director to be terminated to begin with, but I mean, I'm just saying it's kind of limiting what that person can do in Coffee County. Maybe they did a real good job with us. I'm just trying to think this out. They did a real good job with us, but they didn't want to be director anymore, and maybe a year down the road, they would like to do something in the school and be a good
Well,
resource
Yeah.
for us, and they wouldn't be allowed to be employed. I'll put it that way. If it seems kind of strict. Maybe if we said the director, okay, if terminated for cause, if the director, upon the termination, I don't know.
you could strike the entire section.
Yeah,
If it's problematic, we could strike that entire section because I don't think it changes all that much.
no, it's just, because really, to
And we're
me,
gonna
the
have to
only
run
way
this
that
through
you would,
Mr.
the
Cable
on-
anyway, so,
yeah, right, and the only way that you would want to be this way would be if you terminated someone with cause, and you didn't want them back anymore, and if they were terminated with cause, they wouldn't need
Yeah.
to be in our system.
So we could strike that entire section, so.
Okay, all right. I know it, and so it's kind of just, it's really kind of,
Yeah,
it's very confusing to have that word in there.
okay.
Okay,
I'll strike that entire section.
okay.
Okay. Contract termination. This employment contract may be terminated for the following reasons. Mutual agreement of the director and the board. In the event the board chooses to offer to terminate the appointment by paying the amount specified in, oh, we need to change that section. Well, now, wait a minute. There's something there's some language problem here. We pulled that from this.
Okay, if terminate the appointment, pay the amount specified in 5, would that be 4A, where the annual salary is? 5A.
Yeah, there was
5A instead of 19E.
there was some problems here. I think there's stuff we got was incomplete. Because what I pulled this from, in the event the board chooses to,
Terminate the appointment by paying the amount specified in, which would be compensation 5A, for the
Right.
starting annual salary.
right,
The requirement of the hearing before the board shall be waived by the director. Well, okay. In the event the board chooses to offer to terminate the appointment by paying the amount. Oh, in other words, like if you're gonna go ahead and pay them their salary,
right,
the requirement of the hearing before the board shall be waived, so there wouldn't be any hearing, you're paying them,
right,
you're
Right,
just paying
right.
them out.
right, okay, that's right, so. All right. Okay, retirement of the director, the board may terminate this contract for disability of the director. Well, no, this is all, okay. Something got messed up here. because this section is wrong. It's a repeat of the first paragraph. Well,
Okay, no, this is retirement of the director, and this is disability of the director.
yeah. So that whole paragraph should go down below, and we're missing a paragraph under retirement of the director.
Oh, it's right here.
Yeah, this should go down here, and then we're missing a paragraph here.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's got the wrong topic.
Yeah,
So this one, where it says retirement of the director, that should be disability. So scratch retirement and put disability.
right.
And then where it says disability, put retirement. That'll straighten it out.
No, I don't think that's right.
No, both of them are, yeah, both of them are
Yeah,
referring to disability.
so what we pulled from was the Halliburton contract. So disability of the director is these two paragraphs. So we don't have language for retirement of the director.
Yeah, right. So really, you just need to strike out, put disability of the director there, and then strike this out, because those two paragraphs go together, don't they?
Right, so,
You want to strike that first part out? Since it's not, did you pull it from the Halliburton?
yeah, I think so. So that whole paragraph under retirement of the director needs to be struck, so,
Well, doesn't that need to stay in there? In the second paragraph, it's describing how it shall be determined. Because it says the board may terminate this contract for disability of the director. Okay, disability shall mean that the director is unable to perform the essential functions of his position because of disability,
yeah.
as defined by the Americans with Disability Act.
So this paragraph,
So
this
this one
paragraph are
here.
pretty much the same.
Right.
So,
And this just going into detail said the board reserves the right to demand a second independent evaluation. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe these two need to go together, because this is saying, it says if this contract is terminated for disability, the board shall pay the director any accrued and unpaid benefits as of the date of termination of this contract.
yeah, I'm just looking-
Disability or incapacity shall be determined by submission of competent medical evidence. The board reserves the right to demand a second independent evaluation for such determination, and the board shall be responsible for payment of a second evaluation. Oh my gosh,
well,
it's saying if a director becomes disabled, then they're gonna be terminated. But then this paragraph here tells how they'll be paid, if or how they'll be paid.
yeah, I'm not liking that right now, so,
I do too. And this is
Yeah.
something that this could get into a lot of legal ramifications.
Yeah.
If we don't have that correct.
If I had to put money on it, I would say that covers legal stuff because it's so.
Right,
I would guess it
right,
really does have
I-
a lot of flexibility.
right, and I would just let,
Mr.
Attorney,
Cagle,
Mr. Cagle do that section for us,
this whole section here,
because I'm certainly not equipped to do it. Because that would be that's a big thing, if it's laws that you have to go by with disability.
so why don't we do this? Why don't we, the contract termination, why don't we send this to Mr. Cagle and ask him to put language in
Right.
there while he reviews the rest of it?
Right.
So I'll get that to him.
Right,
And then, because some of this language,
right,
it goes into great detail, and we're not legal experts.
yeah,
So,
right,
All
I
right,
agree.
which would lead us to the last page, amendments. Any modifications to this contract shall be made by mutual agreement of both parties and only in writing. Neither party shall be bound by oral representation concerning modification of this contract. That kind of standard. Entire agreement This contract constitutes the entire agreement between the parties, and parties hereto acknowledge that neither has relied upon any oral representation of any agreements by the other, and no such oral representations or agreements shall in any way affect terms of this agreement, and that this agreement may not be modified or changed except by written instrument executed by the parties. So that's kind of standard legal language, I think, so. And then 18, nepotism. The director will not hire immediate family members in administrative roles in accordance with Coffee County Schools Policy 1.108, which I did check.
All of this are all the way down to amendments or
Yeah, between the, yeah, all the whole section on termination. I think we're going to need to have Mr. Cagle provide that language. I mean,
Yeah. On this nepotism, did we have that in our other contract?
I don't know, but we do have that policy.
What does that policy say? Because I'm thinking, you know, there are some school systems where, there's a director and maybe a family member is in an administrative role that's really good in that position. And, maybe they were already hired, but,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes the director in the negotiation process, if they've got a wife or a husband, you know, whichever spouse, that is also has a professional license, they may be looking for a position too. And when we say, okay, for instance, say there was an opening, which there's not, but say I'm just using this for example, for a special, and those are hard to find.
Right.
If there was an opening for a special ed administrator, then we're limiting this director of being allowed for somebody in his family to fill that role.
It's not in our current contract, but
Okay.
we do have.
But I mean, I do think we need, you know, that nepotism is
Right.
something that,
Well, we do have a policy.
Okay.
It's just not referenced in the
right,
contract. So,
right.
I don't remember exactly what the policy says, but this was put in here at our last meeting. I think Scott,
Okay,
Um,
yeah, I believe I
requested that.
remember that.
yeah, put in there, so,
Oh,
but it's 1.108, so. And I think it's fairly short.
we could just put on that, we could put the director will follow the policies of nepotism in accordance with Coffee County Schools, and not just put in
Right.
there
Yeah,
who he's gonna hire and who, you know.
the director will adhere
To
to, the nepotism policy set forth in,
Coffee County, yeah.
okay. Yeah, that will work. Okay,
Because an administrative role might be considered a secretary, you know, could be construed as a lot of different things, and that's really stopping a lot of,
right, and in a small county, you know, I mean, everybody's related to
everybody's
everybody.
their third cousin. Fourth.
Where do you cut it off? Third cousin?
Right,
Right.
and, right, and that's part of the
Yeah.
deal, that
Yeah.
they can get a job for their
Right,
spouse.
right. So, I'm fine
A
with
lot,
that.
in a lot of instances, not always, but.
Okay. Well, that is, any further comments? Deep dive.
Will you reread that to me that you wrote down?
Okay, yes.
The director will not, will adhere to
The
the
director will adhere to the nepotism policy set forth in Coffee County Schools Policy 1.108.
And whenever we get this draft to present to the board, I would like to see it because there's a lot of that, you know, it's not you, it came from another, but I think they need to be taken out.
A lot of the what? Yeah,
Right,
yeah,
and
well-
we can clean it all up once.
Yeah, and I tried to catch a bunch of it,
Yeah, but
but
you
some
can't.
some I'd missed.
Right.
So,
No, well, a lot of it's verbatim, it
Yeah.
needed to be changed.
Right, right.
You know,
but
it
I'll,
needed to
I'll,
be changed.
I'll make the edits here and I will send it off to Mr. Cagle right away and
Oh,
and
okay,
ask him if he can kind of review this before our board meeting, so
okay.
we'll see, but, and that's kind of,
Well, you're
All right.
taking on a lot if you're gonna type it up. I mean, you're not gonna let Melissa.
Well, do you already have it in a draft, in a Word document?
I do.
I mean, you can send it to me.
Yeah, and then she can send it back to you.
Okay, well, yeah, I can send it to you, you can clean it up and,
Send it back to you, and then,
yeah, I mean, you
and
want
that
me
way
to
you'll
just,
have it in your Word
you
document
want me to
where
just
we
give you
can.
my notes and, or unless you've got,
Let me make copies of your notes. and I'll
Okay.
put them with mine, 'cause I saved them too, so.
we're done.